Hey everyone, how wonderful are you today? Hey, healthy friends out there, all the great listeners that's working to get their body, mind, and soul together and to break the cycle of toxic relationships and make healthy relationships normalize. I hope you guys are doing great. And before we get into our episode, I like to start and kick it off with a deep breath. Let's disconnect to reconnect. I love my meditation. And so today we are shining the light on the blessings of toxic relationships, the growth that we gain. A lot of times we believe, a lot of times we regret our past and we regret the relationships that we were once in that was very treacherous and extremely toxic. But every single experience that we experience serve us if we are able to pull that part of us out to reflect and take the gems away to help us grow and build. And I want to start shining, even though we're shining the light on toxic relationships, and I know we've been focusing on the negative side, I could say, or the contrast of toxic relationships. Like, okay, this was very painful. This is the cause. Cut people off. We don't want any type of abusive person around us. We don't want narcissists around us. We've been shining a light on those issues, on those topics. But let's switch lens for a second and let's shine the light on the blessings and the abundance that come from toxic relationships. And with this, I want to be able to bring some people on to give their experience about their toxic relationships, so it's not biased and y'all not just only listening to me. And so I've been doing a little bit of research on the millennials and how we are dating, and if we're getting married and are we staying in our marriages. And it's interesting because as bad as I thought our numbers were, it's 27% of millennials are actually married. And right now millennials, we range from age 17 to 36. That's our current age. So it's about 27%. That's good because 17-year-olds don't need to be married right now. But 59% of us are single. And so if you are someone that you think that everybody around you as a millennial is getting married and running off and they have this beautiful families, don't be surprised. It's about 60% of us that are still single. So there is hope. Okay, so keep hope alive. And 3% are divorced. So I think the national divorce rate is about 50%. And if we're only 3%, okay. I mean, granted, that's probably because we just now getting married. But 3%, it's a good number to look at right now. And the dynamics have changed because Gen X, they got they 36% of them were married around this time. And then the baby boomers, 48% of them were married around this time. And obviously, customs and times have changed where we're not getting married earlier on than they were. But before we can make it to that marriage state, we have to do some reflection. We have to pull out the gems. We have to look at what the toxic relationships have taught us so that we can make the shifts within our subconscious mind to change ourselves so we can attract the partners that we want to create this long lasting, healthy relationships with. And that's what it's all about, which is why I tell everyone, I help people capitalize on their happiness while single and realize that having a partner is just a bonus, because relationships are the key to our continued expansion. And this is truly what we're doing right now. If you're a single person and you're listening to this podcast, we are capitalizing on our happiness while we are single by reflecting on the things that we've attracted and the relationships and the people that we attracted that held the mirror up to our face to show us who we really are and what we believe we are worth. And that's the key. What do you believe you are worth? So today I have none other than our platform owner, my boss, Alec Lifschultz, and he is going to be my guest today. And it's interesting for him because we're switching seats. So Let's welcome Alec.
Hello everybody. I'm sorry you guys have to listen to me talk. You probably weren't anticipating it. They so used to Celicia giving great lessons every week that to have to hear me talk probably feels like a punishment. So I'm sorry in advance that you guys have to listen to me. She forced me to come on. I just want to say that too. No, I'm kidding.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. So this is weird being a guest on the platform,
It's
but
okay. It's nice to have the shoes switched over because I'm just preparing you for the other interviews that you're going to have, the big time interviews you're going to have in the future for creating such a wonderful platform that is helping people all over the world. So shout out to you.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do what I can.
So I hope you're ready. I hope you're feeling good and relaxed. Because I don't, I like interviews, but I also like conversations. So this, just look at
Oh
this
my
as like
God.
a stop it. Just look at this as a regular conversation that we're having. And I want you to, you don't have to go into details and keep it however, whatever makes you comfortable. But I do want to talk about. Can you tell me about some of your past relationships, that were toxic? What were your experiences like?
All right. Well, I remember when I was 5 years old. We was at the park. My mom took us to the park, and it was
Hmm.
this girl. This girl I was playing with, and so she dumped some sand on my head, and that was my first toxic interaction with a woman. I was five
Wow,
years old.
really?
It was incredible. No, I'm kidding, guys. Um, ser- um, first actual relationship. So, okay. Well, obviously we had the little high school flings. Do those count? Because technically we're not right. We're still growing. Do those count as relationships or no?
I think it depends on the person. If you're someone who were reflective during that time and you really learned from that, yeah, sure. If you're not, then nah.
So let's go ahead and pass those up and
Okay.
go straight to during the college phase. Um, so it's very interesting. So obviously, um, we're pretty self-aware, me and you.
Mhm.
Uh, we're aware of our personality and how it developed, and we're aware of things that trigger us to act certain ways, right?
Mhm.
So 10 years ago, I wasn't as aware, right?
Mhm.
I was 20 years old, and I was in a relationship, but looking back at it, even looking at how I interacted, it was toxic, but it
Mhm.
was it was it was from not just one person's perspective. It was from me as well, and the realization of, again, I mean, listening to Celicia every week, and then doing reflection and actually doing therapy and self-help books and just learning from other people. Like, you get to learn why your behavior was certain ways. So yeah, when my relationship was 20 years old, I was yelling, cursing at
Mhm.
each other, um, saying things that you wouldn't repeat in front of your grandma. Like,
Mhm.
it was one of those types of relationships. We had unhealthy emotional attachments and unhealthy emotional baggage and built up inside of us from things that we experienced, and we let them out on each other. So it was a very toxic relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, and back then we thought it was okay, but it was really like our unregulated emotions. But one thing that I really like that you said is that you are taking responsibility for being toxic as well.
Of course, men, we're usually the problem with relationships according to social media. So I have no choice but to take responsibility for the
You know,
toxicity, toxicity.
I'm glad that you said that men usually are the ones that's responsible for, you know, toxic relationships because that's why I'm starting these interviews off with men because I
Mm,
feel as though
mm.
we are always putting the blame on men. But like I said, if we are pulling that mirror up and we are looking in it, there is something within you that made you attract that situation, that made you a match to that situation or a compliment. So everything that you see in your partner, you have to look and see how is that true for you.
Mm. Wow.
So
Yeah,
I
that
wanted to start with men because as we are stomping the stigma, right? That's what we do here. We are stomping the stigma that it is only men that are toxic because I've seen a lot of toxic women. I have a lot of male cousins and I've seen some of their girlfriends are toxic and and a lot of them are victims and I sit back and I think about how we always look at the men as the abusers. Most of the time, social media in general, we mostly portray the men as the abusers, but women are the abusers as well. I know, like for me, in college, I was in a toxic relationship, but I was equally as toxic. I would get physical if the argument was super heated, or my reactions was based off of his reactions, and they were the yelling and the cursing, and then I would rage, and when the rage and the anxiety boiled up inside of me, could nobody stop me, and I was gonna do whatever impulsive reaction that was gonna be. But in my mind, it was justifiable because this person pissed me off and this person made that. So someone can be toxic in the relationship and do something to trigger you. But once you react back in a toxic way, you are also toxic.
All right, so I just want to highlight something that you said that's a very, very interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I see women joking about doing it and saying that it's just how I am. Oh, it's because of my
Mm-hmm.
sign. I
Mm-hmm.
got so upset that I got physical with him. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
said.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of times women, and they joke around like they like, why aren't you in a relationship right now? You see a status like that, and they'll say because I hit people, because I hit men. That's why I'm not in a relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
was
Because
like,
I fight
oh.
men. Mm-hmm.
And I wonder now listen again, as we all know, if it was the other way around, if if a man posted something saying, fellas, why aren't you in a relationship? And a guy commented talking about some I beat women, they'd
Mm-hmm.
probably get him up out of there. He'd probably be in jail before the end of the night.
Yeah, I
Again,
mean, double standards exist.
and it's so crazy to me, like, and people, again, you admitting to it as is wrong, but it's people that are older than us, five,
Mm-hmm.
10 years older than us, that think that this is okay because that's just how they are, right?
Right.
That's who I am.
Right.
I am a person that gets so upset during an argument and so frustrated that I feel that it's necessary to just punch my partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those people aren't the ones listening to this podcast, obviously, because they're not investing in their growth. They put up a blinder and a wall, and they just continue to live the same toxic cycle. Like you said, a lot of people say, "This is just who I am. This is rule. This is how I am because of my sign." And we play into these negative beliefs, and we feed that into ourselves, and now we done created a new ego identity that we have to live up to because we're already manifesting these specific traits within ourselves. I hope you guys are able to conceptualize that. But I know when you are working on self mastery, you are digging up those parts of you that you're like, okay, I didn't like how that relationship turned out, or I didn't like how I reacted in that situation. And then you have to figure out why you reacted like that. Every time we are triggered, the trigger has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with us. It is telling us there's the parts of us that still need healing, that still needs attention, and we should give it that attention. And if you are surrounded by people, places, things, activities, whatever you do that is constantly triggering you, then it's a sign that you need to take yourself away and away as you work on yourself, so you're not constantly being triggered and pulled down into those lower vibrations.
Oh yes, the lower vibrations. And it's so
Hmm.
funny. Again, it's like self awareness is really will solve a lot of these issues that people are
Hmm.
having with relationships, and actually being in healthy ones is real being aware of where your shortcomings are instead of always placing blame, like being able to hold yourself
Hmm.
accountable for the way you react. Someone
Hmm.
does something wrong, you don't have to, it's something I'm learning myself, and I'm still in the process of learning, and I'm getting there. But you don't have to be just someone does something wrong. You don't have to jump down their throat because of that. You have to be able to explain to them why you feel that way,
Hmm.
in an articulate way, so they can have a great understanding, so they can understand as much as you understand.
Mm.
Make them feel exactly like how you feel.
Hmm.
You doing this to me made me feel this way because of A, B, and C, right?
Hmm.
So can you please not do that to me,
Hmm.
right? And
Yep.
the A, B, and C should be clear cut. I mean, it's just like writing a goddamn paper, right? You got to make sure that everything, your points are hit and they're expounded upon. Otherwise, you're not going to get an A on your paper. Sometimes your partner's not going to understand you, where you're coming from, because they grew up and lived a different life to you. They have different idealisms of what things are and how to interact with people. So they're not going to always understand. That's why you got to break it down to them.
Right. So communication is key, and I think healthy communication comes from healthy individuals. So yeah, self awareness is that first step, and that would lead you to properly communicate. Because one of the things that you said, a lot of times, say for instance, someone made a mistake, and when you're correcting them, you're insulting them. So now the issue is no longer the mistake, and now they're defending themselves from the insult, and that leads to bigger argument. If you say, hey, I didn't like when you did XYZ, it made me feel XYZ. When you, instead of saying, hey, you stupid MFer, why the F did you do some effed up ish like that? Like when you're coming at people in that way, and then you're expecting to reach to a solution, it's never gonna happen because now the actual issue is no longer at the forefront. You've now throw all these different things that are all these different tangents in front of the actual issue. So that's why a lot of times people they feel like they're living the same issue over and over with their partner. We're constantly arguing over this. We're constantly arguing over that. Well, how is the communication between you two? Because if you're insulting your partner before y'all can get to the root issue, that root issue is still gonna be there, and now y'all working on issues that have nothing to do with the actual problem.
Yeah, and there's nothing like unsolved conflict in relationships.
Man,
It's
it's
like
draining.
a weed to put into your yard, right? And if you don't kill that weed, it's going to grow, it's going to spread out, there's going to be more weeds, and next thing you know, your grass is going to look like a baseball yard, right? You
Hmm.
know, like a little back lot. It's going to be dirt patches and dead grass everywhere.
Right.
And another thing is makeup sex doesn't resolve conflict in relationships.
No, absolutely not. But um, it doesn't. It doesn't. But you know what? A lot of people look at makeup sex only releases endorphins that make you feel happy and make you feel loved, but it's not actually obviously addressing the issue. And I learned a while ago, those endorphins last in men and women. Oh, 2 weeks. I think it's 7 days, and those of being happy and on a high, and those endorphins in men only last 2 days. So a lot of times you're stuck in that thinking that okay, the relationship is fixed, but it's not. But I want to stay on topic. And so after your most, if you can think back to a time of your most toxic relationships, how did you feel, and what were some of the thoughts that were coming running through your head?
In my toxic relationships,
Yeah, when you're thinking back maybe to the ones in college.
well, the thing that came to my head is how much I wish I knew what I knew now, as far
Mm-hmm.
as understanding of why I felt the ways I felt. You know, why was I so angry,
Mm-hmm.
and why was I so explosive like I was, and the reason that not only that, but like just and then looking at the partner's perspective, the reason
Mm-hmm.
why they were the way they were towards me as well, right? Like they had unresolved stuff as well. Like they were hurting themselves from the past. So certain things, a lot of times you carry your insecurities from the past into your next relationship unless you resolve them, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
blame your next partner for mistakes or
Mm-hmm.
interactions that your first partner had. And hell, even seeing things that happen in your parents' relationship, you think that that's how your partner's going to be because that's how your mom or your father were together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you think that's how relationships are supposed to be.
Yeah,
And
those traumas. Mm-hmm.
and people don't. That's the big word right there, trauma. Boy, I could do a 4-part series on that word, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's incredible, like I said, to look back at it and just from both perspectives, just from just not only just my perspective and their perspective as well. Like the reason why the relationship was toxic was because of this and this. And a lot of times people think because this person are different, you guys have different likes, different tastes for different things, just different things that you care about. That does not mean the relationship's not going to work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with the tension in a relationship at
Yeah.
all. It's a good thing that you guys aren't like that's kind of boring, honestly, in my opinion. If you guys all you just like all the same shit, it seems kind of boring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus you put your drink in the drink, in the refrigerator. She might like that. She gonna drink your shit while you not at home. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm kidding. But it
Okay,
also,
that's serious for you, huh? Mm-hmm.
hey, look, you know how it is when you leave something in the fridge and you be
Yeah.
anticipating it when you get home.
I know.
or when you wake up.
Oh, I know. Trust me. Trust me, I know. I'm the culprit sometimes, but I know.
Yeah, I bet you are. I bet.
Yeah. So, I mean, but back then, what were the thoughts that were going through your head, and how did you feel about the situation? I know, looking back right now in retrospect, we can always analyze, especially being self-aware right now. We
I
can always analyze how, what
okay.
came from those situations. But back then, what was going on?
Uh, well, okay. Let me put myself back in the mindset I had 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad. I felt like she was intentionally like doing things and making me feel a certain way. And again, I was just angry, right? Like I was pissed. Like there was good times, there was bad times. Again, like you said, the endorphins from the sex and doing things that we enjoy together, but like still like there was still that unresolved conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So when something like literally something little, and it's so funny. Comedians say this, they say things, and
Mm-hmm.
they're joking, but there's so much fucking truth to it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Hart once said that when you see these new relationships, they be all happy and shit, sharing food with each other, and they be out like, here, you have some, you got some off my plate, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Now one of those more, and when he said was a more established one, you come back and you go ask your party, you want something to drink from the stand, and you go, and they say no, and you go and you get your drink, you come back and they ask can they have some of yours,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of thing. Cause that something as simple as that could spark up the unresolved anger from some past arguments that you guys had or past things from your past that you remember, and it would literally start you up. So that's why I'm saying like I used to be upset about things that I look back at some things I was upset about, but I shouldn't have been as upset. Like I was pissed about things that I shouldn't have been so pissed off about,
Mm-hmm.
just based off the fact that I had unresolved anger in my system.
Mm. Right. Was that unresolved anger that you had in your system, was that based off of your relationship, or was it something that you just was carrying up by yourself?
Uh, both.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I've experienced and seen from childhood up to that point. Um,
Okay.
so it was just again, and then just like Mark Wallen said, unresolved family inherited trauma and emotions
Man.
and mental health issues. It's just like it was a lot of things that were carried on and are passed on genetically to me as well, feelings and emotions from things that were unresolved. Right.
Okay.
So I was
Mm-hmm.
ang- and I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
I was angry a lot of times, man. Like, and it was it's not good. It was not good.
Yeah. I mean, that anger that you had balled up inside of you was definitely the outlet for other issues that were deeper rooted. And I think when we are the scary part about dating while we were younger, like high school and college, is that we are so unaware of that trauma that we are carrying, trying to trauma bond and fall in love with the next person that can save us, and self-sacrifice so that we can have a relationship just to say we're in a relationship, to validate ourselves, like all of these things that come from us not realizing that we are so wounded and we need to work on our healing. And it's great that you are self-reflective, because not everyone is self-reflective, and not everyone can acknowledge that they were in a toxic relationship. They were the cause of a lot of the toxicity in the relationship, and work to change.
If you line up about a good 10 people, probably maybe only like 3 or 4 of them will probably say that they were. They probably
Mm-hmm.
own up to it. A lot of them still living in that denial or living,
Mm-hmm.
and I call this, and this is what I refer to as, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, the listeners and people that are going to listen back, um,
Mm-hmm.
in the Matrix, Neo woke up every day, went to work, came home, went drink whatever, came home. He thought that was reality. He was not aware of what was really going on. Right. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until he received that red pill, and that red pill, I call that awakening, or like when you learn about toxic relationships, and when you learn about family inherited trauma, when you learn about psychotherapy, when you learn about these things and unresolved conflict, that's the red pill. And once you take
Mm-hmm.
that red pill, he became aware of the real world, right? You become aware. And there's a lot of people, if you line up those 10 people, a lot of them are going to still be plugged in. They're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
aware. Like, when Neo took the red pill and he was reborn. He learned a lot. He was like, this is how the world really is. Like, he was plugged
Mm-hmm.
into the system. He was
Yeah.
unplugged. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because once you awaken, like there's no going back. Once you know it, you can't not know anymore. And now it's time for you to put the actions to it. But one thing that I do see that I find common, like you said, those that don't know, they continue to monkey branch. They know who is lined up next that they gonna swing to before they let go of the rope. And it just continues this cycle. And I'm looking at it from the outside standpoint, like you think that working on your healing is so painful. You don't want to sit with yourself because you don't want to face the things that's going to come up for you. But yet you think your escape is running to another relationship that's going to continue to put you in the same position that you were. It's going to evoke those pains. And how I look at it is the relationships, they don't get any better. They actually get worse. And then something catastrophic happens. I was listening to Tony Robbins not too long ago, and he was saying that, a lot of us, we think that when something catastrophic happens to us, we think, oh my God, it just happened today. But there's a lot of things that build up to a catastrophic event. So people don't become successful overnight, like how people say. There's no overnight sustainable success. Those are the people that have been putting in the work for a long time, and then now all of a sudden they're seen. So they look overnight to you, but they know the work they've been putting in. Even when someone is going through um nasty divorce. Say it's a really super nasty divorce. Like, that person didn't just wake up and become nasty. You knew that person was nasty when y'all was talking and you let those red flags fly. You knew that person was nasty when y'all was in a relationship. You knew that person was nasty in the first year of y'all marriage. And then now you are looking at this big old horrible divorce dispute, and it's like, oh my God, woe me, have sympathy for me and my situation. But you knew there were all these little things that was piling up that you weren't paying attention to that led to this event. So I say that to say, you cannot run from yourself. You cannot run from your healing. You cannot run from your experiences. You have to lean into them. You have to face them, no matter how big of a slap to the face. Like, I feel like the universe rocked my ass in 2019. Like, I know 2020 is rough for a lot of you, but I feel like I really got my ass whooped. Saw stars, died and came back in 2019. And I could have easily remained the victim from that. But I wanted to see what was it telling me about myself. And I had to really dig. And it was the most excruciating pain of my life. Wouldn't even wish it on my worst enemy. So but the amount of enlightenment and healing and shifts that happen, that's going to be shifting my entire world and experience from this point on, it's almost like that right there is priceless. So I say all of that just to say, what were some of the positive takeaways that you learned through your toxic relationships?
So some of the positives I take away from my toxic relationships is, how to better address, like, and express myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I get upset about certain things, instead of just getting explosive, like, explain it, right? Explain it,
Mm-hmm.
and again, like I said earlier, explain it in a way that your partner can understand why you got upset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these self-help books people read lie to them. You're not going to just read this book and practice it and all of a sudden go away and be happy forever, right? You're just going to be an
Mm-hmm.
eternally happy individual that's just smiling at everything and not feeling these feelings. No, you're supposed to be able to be aware of those emotions arising in you. That's what they do to help you realize when you're getting to that point. And
Mm-hmm.
now you could change the direction of how you respond
Mm-hmm.
instead of just boom and boom, right? Like angry and respond. No, angry and then okay. So how would I respond to this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get to being more self aware and you just catch yourself. And you're like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to respond this way. I'm not going to yell about this. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna walk outside. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I need to go cool off, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I need to go do
Mhm.
this. I need to go for a ride, then come back and then explain why I was upset. Like there's certain things that I've learned that I wish I would have known. But again, man, that family inherited trauma, that trauma from childhood. I mean, a lot of these things is just like built up inside me, and I didn't know right at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that comes with the whole maturity part of it. Like to be able to understand when the situation is just not for you to handle in the moment and remove yourself from the situation until you can come back and address it in a way that is more positive and healthy.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, I feel it needs to be a common practice. So if you were to give um, your listeners any advice if they're currently in a toxic relationship or they are, let's give an advice for if you're currently in a toxic relationship or if they are getting out of one, just got out of a toxic relationship and they're in their reflection period, what advice would you give them?
If they are in one or they just got out of one.
Both.
Okay, two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if they're in one, get out of it. And if they just got out of it, congratulations. No, I'm kidding. Um, so if you are in a toxic relationship currently, you need to sit back and like what I would do is get a pen and a piece of paper and write down why do you think this relationship is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
You need to become aware of why you think like just make your brain jog your brain real quick just to figure out why you think it's toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
then also why are you a part of this toxicity? Because again, no one's 100% innocent in
Mm-hmm.
situations and relationships. I don't give a damn what anybody says.
Mm-hmm.
You're not 100% innocent in a relationship usually, right?
Yep.
So figure out where you come into play at, and then if this relationship is salvageable, then talk to your partner, maybe go to therapy or something like that. If it's not salvageable and it's beyond the point of saving, then I mean, we only live once. I mean, 2020 has been the greatest indicator of you need to act in the moment, right? So
Mm-hmm.
remove yourself from that relationship if it's not able to be saved. Now, if you have just got out of a relationship, right? Depending on how long you've been out of that relationship, um, what I would do is get a therapist. If you don't have a therapist, get a therapist and reflect on yourself, right? Focus on
Mm-hmm.
yourself and bettering yourself and learning more about yourself, learning what you like in a person, a man or a woman, learning what you don't like, and learning, where you need to grow at before you get into another relationship. Because don't if you just jump into another one, you're more than likely you're gonna carry that baggage from the past one into that one, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna be good, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good. That's the equivalent of someone taking I don't know, like a dirty, muddy T-shirt and throwing it into a pile of clothes that's clean. You don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Great, great analogy. Yeah. Um, Thank you. Thank you for your insight and thank you for being open to coming on your own platform and not just being the man behind the scenes and express and sharing with us your past. I hope that the listeners gain something from what you said. I know, you know, assessing your relationship. I like the fact that you said see if it's salvageable. And then going forward by actually communicating with your partner and seeing if you could work that out. And you know, if anyone, I know there's a lot of people that feel stuck in their toxic relationships and they just feel like they can't get out. Maybe because they have children, maybe they don't have the finances or the support. Um, you know, I'm not sure. I know you're not like the therapist, but if it's someone that feels stuck where, leaving may be hard for them to do right now, what advice would you give them?
Well, if you're living with someone, you have kids.
Mhm.
Like okay, so it won't be as easy as someone who doesn't have kids and doesn't live with someone. It won't be as easy, but you need to set aside, like make a plan, right? So make a
Mhm.
plan, set aside some money, see if you can get some assistance from someone in your family, right?
Mhm.
There's steps that you have to take more steps to get to that point, but it's not impossible, right? I mean, if you have a kid with someone, then obviously you're gonna have to get the court involved.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be a lot. That's gonna be tricky. If you're the mom, I mean, it's a lot more to it now. I don't know much about that process because I haven't
Mm-hmm.
crossed that bridge in life. But whew, that's I can only imagine what that's like.
Don't imagine it, and don't say you haven't crossed it because you never will.
Hey, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna speak it into existence, but hey, I'm not by the way the world's going. I'm not gonna be surprised by anything that happens. I can't I
Okay.
can't I can't afford to be surprised by anything that happens.
Oh, good.
But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, obviously, if you live with someone, it's a little more difficult. You have to come up with a financial plan to move on from that person. You have to, if you have to go back to your mom's house, um, you know, you gotta make that move, man.
Yeah.
It'll be tough. I know a lot of people
Yeah.
butt heads with their parents as they get older, but they look out for you. You better, just you gotta do what you gotta do. Honestly, at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. The planning, that's great. Yeah, come up with an action plan and look at all your resources. Really jot down your resources and the nonprofit organizations. There are organizations that will help you. But I'm so glad that we got to touch on this. Next week, I hope to do another interview with someone that can give me another male's perspective so that we can stop change the stigma and not just put the blame on the men. And again, as I always say, thank you, Alec, for coming on your own show. But if you haven't already done so, my book is on Amazon. At the end of the day, it's me, Overcoming the Addiction to Toxic Relationships. And you can follow me on IG. I am doing my lives daily at 10 a.m. every morning, Central Standard Time. So if you want to get fed in that way as well, you can follow me at continued_expansion. And if you like one-on-one coaching, I am available. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, please send them in. And remember to breathe. But that's all I have for you today. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.